Today, I'm going to be sharing with you all my updated Viper lineups guide for every map. These are going to be post-plant Molly lineups for every map that is currently in the competitive pool, as the maps that aren't in rotation right now likely will have changes to them, which would make this video useless anyway. These are going to be all the lineups that I personally use in my Immortal and Radiant ranked games. If you find these videos helpful, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as I currently have updated Viper guides for every map on the way. First up, starting with Ascent A site for when the spike is planted in front of generator. Come out into A main, stand in this corner at the green box and the wall. Aim up until this left corner of your toxin bar is right above this metal corner right here. And the molly will land perfectly at generator. Next up for A site is when the spike is planted dice. And once again, you're going to be standing in this corner where the box meets the wall. You want to aim right here. And this is a very forgiving lineup, but anywhere around the top part of this is good. Do a normal left click, and the molly will bounce off the wall and land dice. So moving on to Ascent B site, and this corner here has been the most common plant spot that I've seen for a while now. So this lineup is going to be for right here. And for this lineup, you're going to want to exit B main here, stand in this corner. You want to pull out your molly, and you want to use this part of the HUD icon and put it right here in the middle of the cracks in the sky. Do a normal left click, and the molly will land covering this whole corner. So moving on to bind. First up, we have A site and the default plant area, which is right next to the truck. Come out of A short, jump onto this box and get in this corner right here. And you just want to aim a bit to the right of this corner right here. So right about here, do a normal left click, and the molly will cover this entire area of the default plant spot. Next is for when the spike is planted triple. For the A site triple lineup, once again, you're going to walk out of short here, jump onto this box and into this corner this time, and line up this part of the toxin bar into the corner of these two rocks on the wall, just like this. Do a normal left click. The molly will cover this entire corner at the triple box. So moving on to B site here, this is for when the spike is planted right here in the corner. You want to come out into long here and aim the middle of this second section of the toxin bar into the metal corner of this roof, right about here, and do a normal left click. So the molly covers this entire corner of default. So moving on to fracture, and first up is A site. Personally, I never have actually played lineups on this site ever. Now I do play post-plant mollies from main, but they aren't pixel sky lineups like the other maps. And for when the spike is planted here in this corner, which has become the most common plant spot that I've personally seen, you can come into A main, stand in this corner right here, aim at this white dot on the box, move your crosshair up just so it's on this line, do a normal left click. The molly arches right over the box and lands perfectly in that corner. And if you're afraid of getting pushed from main, you can tuck behind the box here and wait until they tap again to fire another molly. Because it lands so fast, you can just fire it right on the tap. Moving on to B site, this first lineup is for when the spike is planted here for B main. For this positioning, you want to stand right along this line out here in B main and line up the top of your snake bite icon on this dark gray bar on the roof, like this. Do a normal left click. And the molly covers the entire area around dice. So next for B site is when the spike is planted slant. For this lineup, you're going to need to come out into arcade, jump in this corner right here, pull out your molly and aim it so this part of the HUD is in the middle of the window, just like this. Do a normal left click, and the molly will bounce off the wall and land covering slant. So moving on to Haven A site, we have a lineup for when the spike is planted right here on the left side of front site. For this lineup, you want to come out into the lobby here, stand in this corner, and you want to line up this line on the HUD right underneath this light right here. Do a normal left click. So the molly lands right at default, and it covers pretty much the entire front of the site where you'll be planting. So next up is for B site, and this is for when the spike is planted safe in this corner, as it's definitely the easiest spot to plant on this site. For this lineup, you want to come all the way back into spawn here, stand in this corner, Aim at the top of this bell on the roof, and then move your crosshair to the left until it's in line with the pillar coming out of the ground, just like this. Do a normal left click. And as you can see, this molly covers the entire front of the site, so whether you plant in this corner or plant right here, it should cover both. So finally for Haven, we have a lineup for when the spike is planted right here for long, which has been the most common plant spot that I've seen for a while. For this positioning, you want to come all the way out here into C long, and you want to stand at this line on the wall right on top of this sign. And you want to pull out your molly and aim your mouse icon just above this purple flag right here, just like this. Do a normal left click. And the molly will land right where the spike is planted if it's planted for long. So first up for Lotus is A site, and this lineup will cover both sides of this box. So if it's planted for tree here, or if it's planted for main right here. For this lineup, you want to come out into A main, stand along the wall right here, and aim this very left side of the toxin bar right at the bottom of this leaf right here. Do a normal left click. And the molly lands right on top of the box, covering all sides of the box. So next up is for B site, and this lineup is going to be for when the spike is planted middle here. Not the best plant spot, but pretty much the only way to have post-plant lineups here, as this is where the hole in the roof is. For this lineup, you want to come out into the attacker spawn here, stand in the middle of these two boxes, and you want to line up this part of the HUD into this corner of the roof right here, and do a normal left click. And the molly will land right in the middle of site. So finally for Lotus, we have C site. And this first one is going to be for when the spike is planted open for Mound right here. For this lineup, you want to come out into C main here, stand in the middle of this part of the wall, and you want to line up this left side of the snakebite part of the HUD right here into the bottom of this leaf, just like this. Do a normal left click, and the molly will land right at the front of site. So a less common plant spot is when the spike is planted safe, but the lineup is very similar, so I'll show you guys that as well. So once again, standing at the same spot out here in C main in the middle of this wall, you just want to line up the same part of the snakebite icon right here into the bottom of this leaf. So just a bit lower than the previous lineup, and do a normal left click. And the molly will land a little bit further onto site, covering the safe plant spot. For A site Pearl, this lineup is going to be for when the spike is planted default in the corner here. For this lineup positioning, you want to come out into A main, stand in this corner right here, and you want to crouch and then line up the left side of the poison cloud icon on the HUD into the corner where these two parts of these bricks meet, just like this. And it's very important to be crouched so that way it doesn't hit the tree, and then do a normal left click. And the molly will land right at default. This also covers the front of this vending machine here, which is a common plant spot if it's planted for art as well. So moving on to B site, the first lineup is going to be for when the spike is planted for long. Come all the way out into B main here, stand in this corner, and line up this line in your HUD into the middle of these two parts of scaffolding on the roof. Do a normal left click, and the molly will land right at this orange box. So the next lineup for B site is when the spike is planted safe right here. For this lineup, you want to stand in the corner right here in B main. You want to pull out your molly, and you want to line up the top of the mouse icon on the HUD right in the middle of these two shingles at the top of the dark brown line. And this is a pretty specific lineup, so it might take some practice, but do a normal left click, and the molly will land right here, and it still covers this corner. So finally, the last map we have in the competitive pool is Split, and this lineup is going to be for when the spike is planted either for Heaven right here, or anywhere in this area right behind this wall. For this lineup, you want to come all the way out here into A main, stand in this corner, and you want to aim at the right side of this light in the sky, and move your crosshair down until it's in line with this corner of the roof of the building. So just like this, do a normal left click, and the molly lands right here, covering this entire part of a safe plant, as well as the front of the site for a Heaven plant. So finally for B site Split, the first lineup is going to be for when the spike is planted open right here. And the second lineup is from the same spot, and it's going to be for when the spike is planted safe. So for this lineup, you want to come into B main. So for these lineups, you want to come into B main, stand at this hole in the wall, and for the open plant, you want to aim right here on the metal box, do a normal left click, and the molly will arch right over the box and land open. And for the safe plant, once again, stand in B main right here, and just aim at the left corner of where this pipe bends, right about here. Do a normal left click. And the molly will bounce off the wall and land and cover default.